Another great champion that we have on the House side, none other than Representative Scott Slater.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here today. It's an honor and a privilege for me to be the sponsor of this legislation. As Senator Metz mentioned earlier, we've partnered on a number of pieces of legislation around social justice issues and getting folks back to work. I want, as one of my legislative priorities in being up here, it's always been a passion of mine, is to give people second chances and get people back to work and employed. And so this fair chance licensing bill is a big step to doing that. I know Fred mentioned about being the box, which we did a few years back, and I think that's important too, to get people to the interview. But folks that have licenses and that this is a barrier for them getting back to work, we need to put some sort of a process there so that they can get those licenses back and get back to work. Legislation like the Fair Chance Licensing Bill will make it easier for people with records to work, and strengthening the economy, expanding the workforce, improving public safety, helping employers find quality workers, and advancing racial and social justice. I mean, just the past year, 14 states as diverse as Kansas, Delaware, to Tennessee, to California have adopted legislation to create pathways to occupational licensing for people with records. So those are very, I think Rhode Island, we need to step up and put this in place. And my impetus to come forward on this, when I first ran for office, I want to say about 9 years ago, and I started knocking on doors in the neighborhood. Many people came to me and they said, "Thank you for the right to vote. Now, I really need a chance to work." You know, that's a big impediment. So many people were saying to me, "I got my right to vote back, but I can't support my family. I can't find employment." And one of the things was when I checked that box off, I never get a call back. And then I have a license and I'm not able to work. So I told many of my constituents this would be my passion and what I work extremely hard on up at the State House and going forward. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. No judge that I've ever seen, and I said this back then, has ever sentenced anyone to a lifetime of unemployment. So, Senator Metz says we've been doing a lot of work and we've been moving to more compassionate on many of these issues. We've passed a lot of justice reinvestment stuff, and I went to. A couple of weeks ago, I went to drug court to watch the graduation, and watching the folks that were coming forward and being able to change their life around by getting their record taken care of at that time at the end of 12 months when they had 12 clean screens, is amazing. And one of the women that was there was actually a nurse, and she said without this, she would never have been able to get back on track. So we need more of that in the state. We need more compassion. And we need to understand that people need second chances or third chances sometimes.
Thank you, Representative Slater. I just also want to remind folks that Representative Slater is also working on another piece of legislation with the governor that affects this law, and that's the marijuana legalization. As you may or may not know, some folks are trying to have barriers for people with criminal records from accessing that industry, getting jobs to do the various things that are going to happen. And as we know, this is completely morally unfair, given what the drug war has done to low-income communities of color particularly. The drug war has devastated those communities because of this nonsensical prohibition. And what we need is reparations to undo the generations of damage that has done. And now that we have the opportunity to remove that prohibition, we need to make sure that we don't continue that those unjust policies of punishing folks, and let those folks who were involved with the drug trader convicted of these sort of things around marijuana be allowed to continue their trades and be the ones that take part in this new wealth that's going to come to the state.